Welcome back to the Real Results Podcast. My name, as always, is Rich Hill. I am your host here of the Real Results Podcast, brought to you by 360 Fitness, where we can get all the real results that we need. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here today. We have a great conversation with Coach Mike joining the podcast once again. We're going to be chatting about some lesser thought of struggles that we are going to see as we get into our fitness journey. Not necessarily initially, but as we get going. These tips, we kind of went off the cuff on this one, so there might be a few times that we trail off, go off on tangents, but that's how we do things around here. We just kind of go by the seat of our pants. But I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us, whether you're on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcast providers. If you enjoy what you're hearing, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode. If this is your first time checking us out, make sure that you go back, take a listen to all the other podcasts. We have some great content that's all free. That's right. We want to give away as much free content as possible, help as many people as possible. So make sure that if you know a friend that could really benefit from listening to this as well, you share that off with them too, because sharing really is caring, guys. And that's how we're going to get real results for everybody. So like I mentioned before, we are brought to you by 360 Fitness. You can find everything 360 Fitness related at www.360fitness.ca. You can find more information about our in-person training. You can find more information out about our online personal training. You can find information about our supplement line, different blog posts. You name it, we got it on there. So make sure that you check out the website. If you're on the social medias, make sure that you check us out on the Facebook there. You can find us at 360 Fitness Sherwood Park Personal Training and at 360 Fitness Red Deer Personal Training. You can find us on Instagram at 360 Fitness PT, and you can find us at 360fitness.shpk. You can also find us on our Twitter at 360 Fitness RD and at 360 Fitness PT, or SP, sorry, at 360 Fitness SP. Good start to the podcast already. Here we go. This is going to be a good one. So as you can tell by the handles, we are super creative. So just look up 360 Fitness and you will find us. So with that being said, guys, we're going to dive into our chat here today with Mike, talking all things about struggles we might find as we are journeying through this fitness land. Enjoy, and I'll be back later on to say goodbye. And we are back here, everybody. Today we are recording live from our 360 Fitness studio here in Sherwood Park. And today I have Coach Mike joining us once again. Coach Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Rich. How are you doing?
Man, it is fall. This is the second time we've had to do this, so it's wonderful. Great day. It's sunny out, so hopefully we get a good weekend coming up here as well.
We're headed out this weekend.
Absolutely. Top secret 360 Fitness travel plan. We're going to be doing all the fitness, all the health, everything people could imagine and more. All healthy, all within the legal guidelines.
Yeah, I let the cat out of the bag, my bad. Yeah, let's hope the weather stays well for that for sure.
Absolutely. So before we head into the topic today, I just want to touch base on something we talked about last time you were on our podcast, and that was your bike challenge that you did across Edmonton. So this was to raise money for the MS Society here in Edmonton. How'd that all go? What was the experience like, and what did we raise?
Yeah, it was awesome. Raised $1,500, which is fantastic. I had a couple of riders in there that the ride went really well. Actually, put a lot of training, preparation into it. Really trusted the process, and at the end of the day, I was able to walk after 12 hours on the bike. So, really good event. It was definitely a major milestone for me. Kind of the closing of another chapter in my fitness journey. So yeah, it went really well, and I'm looking forward to doing it all over again next year.
Yeah, and I know how many of us like a good challenge, so I'm sure a couple of us will join in with you there too. How much did we end up raising? Or how much did you end up raising?
Yeah, $1,500 so far, and we'll just build off of that for next year. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, super excited about that.
First year down. Right on, man. Yeah. Well, let's dive into today's topic. Today we're talking about kind of some lesser known struggles as we get into our fitness routines. So what we're talking about here today isn't necessarily the struggles you'll see right off the bat, those initial struggles, finding motivation, finding time, getting started, period, right? We're talking about some of those struggles that might happen, a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months, even 6 months in, sometimes years in, but these are some struggles that a lot of people don't think about until they actually happen. So today I really want to touch base on some of these so we can prepare people ahead of time, or perhaps even get some longer term members over those humps. So first and foremost, I think a good one to mention is support systems and how important support systems are. Again, this can go back to the very start, but this is also moving forward as well, right? So support systems are so important because while people initially might be super supportive and be like, hey, you know what, that's awesome, you're doing this for 6 weeks, you're doing this for a month, congratulations, eventually that luster kind of wears off a little bit more.
Yeah, 100%. I think that people that you have in your life that are going to be supportive of you in your fitness goals is super important, because I think we are, who we are around for the most part. And, I know in my own individual struggles, the support network was massive. I don't think without it, I probably could have got to where I am. So that's a big thing with that. So I'm really focused on making sure that support is huge. I know with our clientele here at 360 Fitness, continually communicating with those people and make sure that we're having that around, whether it's family, it could be a friend, it could be a coach. I think it's very important that we have somebody and that we keep that line of communication open.
Absolutely, and again, it really helps on the nutritional side especially, because typically the support system's not necessarily going to be against you exercising, right? There might be situations where it's like, oh, why don't you come out for a beer with us? It's like, well, I have to go get my workout in first, right? So it's learning how to balance that social life with what we're actually doing in terms of our goals. So what is I guess a better approach would be like, what is the value of what we want to accomplish? Do we want to see that 20 pounds down still, or is it more valuable to go for that beer, right? So hopefully people's mindsets are now towards, moving towards their goal and not so much the negative side of things. That's just an example. So again, with the friend situation, even with family situations, it can really come down to food choices. And that's primarily what the support really needs to be there for. Because while initially people are going to be like, oh yeah, that's fine, we don't have to go out for drinks, or we don't have to do this, we don't have to do that, eventually people can end up getting a little bit tiresome. And you know what? Sometimes even the support systems that we have in place aren't always the best, because they almost see your success not as your success, but almost as their failure in a way. So they almost look for ways around simply saying, oh, I can't do what you did, by saying like, oh, come out for wings. Oh, stop being silly. Come out for wings. It's like, you've already seen so many results. You look great. Just come and do this, right? They almost peer pressure you to a degree.
Yeah, and it's super important. And I think, maybe a lot of people don't actually think about doing this, but have that conversation with those people. Say, you know what? This is really important to me. I'm trying to achieve a particular goal, and I understand that going out and being in that social environment, as we've talked before, Rich, about not demonizing certain foods and having a really good balance, is, hey, I have a particular goal that I'm trying to reach, and this is where I'm at right now, and people that are supportive of you and those people that are going to be a part of that are really going to understand that. And I don't want to be harsh and really kind of go down this road.
Do it, man.
But,
that's what we're here for.
If those people are going to continually pester, then they got to go to a degree. Maybe that's a short-term thing. Maybe it's just, for right now, I've got a particular goal to reach. Let's have a conversation down the road when I've got there, or I'm ready to maybe have a different balance in my life or achieve a different goal. You have to be a part of where you want to go. Yeah. And if there are people there that are going to continually pester and pull you in a different direction, they got to go.
That's 100% right. Again, it's if you consistently hang out with the people that are going to bother you and make you feel bad about, finding ways to work on your own health and wellness, well, those people don't need to be around, right? If they don't need to be around temporarily, that's a decision you have to make, right? Maybe it's a situation where you spend a little less time with those individuals, right? You're maybe talking to them a little less. Not cutting them out by any means. Again, we don't have to take it to the extreme. But again, you'll find that as you see success, as you see results that you want to see, all of a sudden you're going to attract other people that are going to be building you up rather than trying to bring you back down. So most times, unfortunately, whether it's subconscious or consciously, people are just trying to pull us back because they don't want to feel like they're getting left behind as well from how we're growing as an individual as well on that side of things. But it becomes a little bit more difficult when it becomes family, obviously, right? Family, it becomes a very, very, thin line on that side of things, because we can't just dump off your kids on the side of the street or kick a husband or wife to the curb. We kind of have to find a way to make sure that they're on the same path that we are on.
Yeah, prime example with me, especially because it's funny you bring up family, because I've had, as I enter the fitness space, transitioning from the health and wellness as a lifestyle and then going into it as a profession, I get challenged all the time from people who are not in that position or in that kind of space, and it's very difficult sometimes to not want to debate or go into those challenges. But sometimes, even with family, that's a no-go zone for me sometimes. Like, listen, if we're going to hang out or we're going to do things as a family, we're not going to talk nutrition. We're not going to go into those type of things, because you're feeding on something to try and get your win. Like we talk about, like that misery loves company, or I'm not in that position right now. And I always usually just say, pull that person aside. That could be my mom or my dad or my sister, and be like, listen, when you're ready to have a pragmatic conversation about fitness, and really let's talk and be positive and optimistic about the whole parameters of nutrition, because we can go in all different directions with this, is let's do that. But if you're just going to continually try and feed the fire, we're not going to go there. And I'm willing to do that with family. So you have to kind of weigh those things out as well. Super important. I think it's super important to be honest as well with each other, right? Again, if you're, Mike, you went through your own individual weight loss challenge, I should say. Again, it's so important to have those around you to be supportive, right? Especially those that are closest to you. So if you're living every day with somebody that's eating pizza and cake and, just saying, we'll just grab takeout for dinner tonight, don't worry about that, and you're trying to make those changes, it probably makes such a huge hurdle out of something that should almost be a support system instead. Wouldn't you agree? I would say it's the biggest.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
It's massive. It's a massive hurdle. I have gone into arguments with family members. You see our family functions. I know a lot of us, we show up at Christmas and someone hasn't seen us for 3 or 4 months, and they go, wow, you look amazing, and then it's, well, you must have starved yourself, or, oh, you must have done this, and they're trying to look for different reasons why they're not there, or they're not trying to make that push themselves. So that's hard, because those are the people you love, right?
Well, a couple stories from just previous experiences, right, is, there's been situations where an individual has lost X amount of weight and their significant other has been, legitimately worried that this person's going to leave them. That's why they're working on it. Instead of hey, no, they're just working on their health and wellness. It's no, they're leaving me, they're cheating, they're doing this, they're doing that. And there's a lot of insecurity when it comes to it from the individual side. So having that conversation with the people closest to you is super important. Make sure that they're on board with what you're doing, and it's not just oh, yeah, it's gym membership, whatever. It's no, we're trying to make changes for X reason, X reason, X reason, so that they know that you're not trying to leave them, right? And, again, another client story is we one time had a client come in and, the one individual was super motivated. He was ready to go, ready to rock and roll, and his significant other wasn't so much, right? They were kind of on the fence, but they had a critical conversation where he was very, very blunt, and he told them, I do not find you attractive right now at our current weights. We need to do something about this. So maybe we don't have to go that blunt, but having that conversation to each other is super important, right? So having that family support system is always good, and you'd hope that the people that are closest to you are looking out for your health and well-being as well. Again, maybe not so harshly and bluntly, but going in that direction at least can help.
That's difficult, and from experience, the very first time that I struggled with weight, I actually lost weight for about a year, and it was based very much like you just said. It was my ex-spouse had a conversation with me very bluntly, like, you're overweight, and I don't like, this isn't what I want.
Yeah.
And I lost all that weight, but I didn't do it for me. I did it for them.
Yeah.
And you know what? When I lost all the weight, nothing changed. Nothing changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, that has to be a really big thing, that's got to be a big conversation, right, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
And lay all those things down. And I think that's the biggest thing that people don't do is they don't communicate and have those conversations. Right?
Absolutely. Critical conversations. So the biggest thing with support systems, I think, just wrapping up this part of the conversation here, is just, again, communication with those closest around you is super important. So that can be your friends, that can be your family, that should be coworkers as well. If you have a certain goal, you know, ask coworkers. Don't bring in, you know, candy. Don't bring in cooking. Don't bring in baking, or at least, you know, deliver it to people that are interested in having it. Because the more that people present those types of things in open, the bigger challenges they become for all of us trying to actually achieve those results. So communication is super important. Most times you're going to find people are on board, they're super supportive, they'll check in with you, there's some outside accountability, so it's awesome that way. But making sure that, you know, when those issues do come up, we have to take a look in the mirror and think, okay, is this somebody that's looking out for the best of me, or is this somebody that's not necessarily looking out for me on that side of things? And we'd hope that the people closest to us are looking out for us.
100%.
So moving into kind of point number 2, another area that people don't really think about as they're going on, and this is especially true with people that have never worked out before, but it's the law of diminishing returns.
Yes.
So basically what that means is when we start off with our exercise program, we initially see some great results, some amazing results, especially that we've seen here at 360 lately. If you look at any of our social media pages, you'll see some unreal 6-week numbers. So is that going to be long-term sustainable? Is somebody going to lose 20 pounds every 6 weeks for the next year? Absolutely not. When we start exercising, our body is not used to any of the things that we're doing.
That's right.
We are usually eating at a calorie deficit. We're usually looking at the calories that we're actually taking in, so we're taking good quality food in. So all of these factors end up shocking the system so much that we see such a huge change initially. That's why when we exercise initially, we'll get all the muscle soreness, all of the muscle soreness, and then that slowly disappears. So again, you and I, we're both pretty long-term exercisers. There's not many times anymore that I'll get super debilitated sore for multiple days. Like every now and then when it's a new program, but I don't know for you, but for me.
Yeah, changing the stimulus might get me a little bit sore, but at the end of the day, yeah, I don't really get crazy sore unless I'm trying to do a PR or exactly changing it up a little bit. But yeah, it's in the beginning you get those because we're an adaptive machine. I mean, that's our body adapts to the stimulus we give it. So you kind of have to push the needle a little bit and constantly change things up and whatnot. So in the those first 6 weeks, people come in, like we just talked about. We're changing nutrition. We're adding nutritional food or whole foods. We're getting rid of a lot of processed foods. We're doing resistance training. We're stimulating the body that way.
Physical activity just skyrockets.
100%. So it's completely a 180-degree spin from where they are to where they're going. And people should be looking at, the sustainability over a long period of time comes from just consistency. I mean, really, at the end of the day, we still work out, our regular routines. I may not see a massive difference in the physical appearance or even the appearance on the scale. I know we shouldn't be using just the scale as a measurement or even the body composition part of it, but we consistently go in that direction because it's for our long-term health, and the changes are just a little more subtle over time.
Absolutely, right? So as we start getting into those months in, you're just going to start noticing, hey, you know what? My weight didn't go down as much. My body fat didn't go down as much. I'm not seeing as big of strength increases, which can be a little bit concerning for some people, right? They start to think it's like, well, this is something I'm doing. I need to work harder. I need to do more, and I just need to... It's always more and more and more. What else can I do to see these types of changes? When realistically, we just need to stay consistent with what we're doing. Because, again, while it's great to lose that 20 pounds in that first 6 weeks, if from there we're losing about a pound, half a pound of body fat a week on average, we're looking pretty good.
Yeah.
right? And again, not everyone's going to lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks. These are some extreme results that we've seen. Again, real results. We're not starving people. Check out our programs online. No more plugs. But but yeah, it's definitely something that mentally people have to prepare for. That the initial gains that we see in our first year aren't going to be what we see every single year moving forward. Right? If we start a powerlifting program, for example, a strength training program, let's just use powerlifting for example. If we do a powerlifting program for a straight year, the initial changes that we're going to see, especially when we're focusing on that aspect of health and wellness, are going to be so much bigger than what we see moving forward. Because once you hit that 400-pound deadlift, it's a lot harder to go from 400 to 500.
100%.
Right? And then from 500 to 600. If it was easy, we'd have everyone being the world's strongest man if it was just a year-by-year thing.
Right.
But you have to actually increase your load. You have to increase your stimulus. And this happens at very, very small increments. You know, at this point in my lifting career, I've probably been doing this for, say, almost like 12 years at this point, 12, 13, 14 years of like consistently lifting. I know that I'm not going to gain, 10 pounds of lean muscle mass in a year.
Yeah.
5 pounds, maybe if I'm really dedicated. But honestly, it's not going to change that much year over year over year, because I've kind of reached a point in my lifting career where I have to really, really focus on one or two aspects if I want to increase that. So you really have to specify the longer that you go down the road.
Yeah, 100%. It's, we talk about those diminishing returns and things like that. And I think it's a really valuable point for all those listening or just kind of getting involved is understanding what the stress of exercise does for the stress for the rest of our lives. I just want to bring up this point because
go ahead.
It really helps. And I think, you can attest to this. When we work out, especially if we've had a rough day, and you go into the gym and exercise, how do you feel when you're done?
Oh my God, it's like, it's amazing what can change. You have the worst day possible, you get in, even if you have a bad lifting day, you leave and you're like, hey, I just did something productive. I did something for me.
Yes.
And you feel like 10 times better. Even for an hour, if you can shut off your brain and just do something that's not the thing that's stressing you out, you're going to feel amazing afterwards.
100%. Because I think we don't grow unless we go through that adversity. We talk body and mind, and they're connected.
Yeah.
The brain is a big part of the body, and the body's a big part of the brain. And I correlate the two with everything in my life. We go back to the social aspect of it, the relationships, things like that. They tend to get better as we continually exercise. So regardless of that, we all know weight loss isn't linear. We hit a 2 to 3 pound a week in the beginning, and maybe we get to that one. A funny story, when I was kind of in the midst of mine, I dropped 40 pounds really quickly in about 6 months.
Yeah.
Like 40 pounds gone.
Jesus.
And I didn't drop a pound for 8 weeks after that.
Yeah.
And I kept bringing my calories down. I kept running and exercising more. I'm going to go 6 days a week, 7 days a week. Like, why am I not losing any weight? Right? The body had just hit a wall. But you know what? I stayed consistent. I took a step back. I went back to eating more than 800 calories a day because I knew that wasn't making me feel good. I was losing sleep, and it was a nightmare. And then, bang, it started up again. So you just have to stay consistent. You have to continually go through that process.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of brings up another, sub point to this as well with the nutritional side of things. When we are kind of seeing those results, and especially as we see those initial results that are getting us closer and closer to our ultimate goal, let's say it's a weight loss goal, right? That's usually what we see, at least at 360 Fitness here. Let's say somebody's looking to lose 40 pounds and they lose up to 30. They can kind of see that end goal in sight, but now they're starting to slack off a little bit, right? It's almost like the turtle and the hare.
Yeah.
The hare has a huge, huge lead. You're almost there. You're almost at the finish line. But then you start, I can have an extra scoop of ice cream. I can have an extra handful of chips, or I can have the extra 2 ounces of steak. I don't have to measure it that importantly because, it's just 10 pounds away.
Yeah.
Right? We need to get to that finish line if we really want to get there, right? So finding that maintenance level, which is something we'll talk about in a second or two here, is super important as part of that long-term results and seeing less results, right? Is because we end up taking what we're doing for granted almost, right? It's that nutritional side of things that got us to the dance, and then we stopped doing what actually got us there. So then we kind of hover around the same part. So we kind of have to make sure that if we're looking at longer term results, that we need to stay diligent with the things that we are doing. It's not a situation where, hey, all of a sudden you're down that 20, 30 pounds, well, now you can do whatever you want. It's like, no, if we want to get down that full 40, we need to stay on track with that.
Yeah.
So again, it's law of diminishing returns. That last 10 pounds is going to take you way more than the first 10 pounds to lose, but it's going to feel so much better once you hit it.
Yeah, and
consistency.
For sure. And what's the why to that 40-pound loss, right? What is the underlying pain point that's going to get you there? And we can just tie all this together. When we get to that last 10 pounds of weight loss, and we start to want to slack off, utilize your support network.
Yeah.
Utilize that group. Write down in the first place why it was you wanted to lose 40 pounds.
Yeah.
So if you've already lost 30 and you've got 10 to go, you need to visually look at that.
Yeah.
Why am I getting to this 40 pounds? And not only that, what happens when you get there? Where are you going next?
Yeah.
Because I think that's equally as important. Because, we rewind back where we were talking about the process.
Yeah.
People need to start to enjoy the process.
100%.
This is what I say. In the big picture, the whole thing is a process with little goals along the way.
Yeah. And that's, again, you can listen back to our motivation podcast that we did a couple weeks ago, but just even with motivation, right, it's building that confidence in ourselves. It's building that enjoyment in what we're doing, because that's what's really going to create that intrinsic motivator, right, because we actually enjoy what we're doing here, so now we're going to continuously do it. We aim to do the things that we actually enjoy the most, right?
100%.
So it's like if you do not enjoy physical activity, it's probably because, number one, we're not very good at it, especially initially. And if we're not very good at it, or we're self-conscious about how we look, we're not going to want to do these things. So we need to make sure that it becomes an enjoyable experience. You're in an enjoyable atmosphere. And yeah, so you can go back and listen to the motivation side of things. But I guess another point with the law of diminishing returns is, as we drop body fat, there's only so much body fat that we're going to drop, right? There's other changes that we need to make those adjustments. So again, we have to kind of look at what you mentioned before. Is it 40 pounds that I actually want to lose, or is it just this lifestyle I want to establish? Right? Am I happy at 30 with this lifestyle, or could I make a few more sacrifices and feel comfortable another 10 pounds down? Right? So as we get to certain points, our body fat's only going to drop so much more. Right? It's not a linear thing like you mentioned before. You can drop the 3%, then drop another 2%, then drop 1%, half percent. But eventually you're going to get to that point where, your male sitting at like 15%, your female sitting at 20%, and we're not going to be able to see a huge change unless we drastically change certain aspects of our life, whether they're drinking, whether it's the food that we're eating, physical activity we're getting in, the amount of rest that we're getting, always overlooked. Rest up, guys.
Yes.
But yeah, so this kind of goes into the next point I want to make, and that's being okay with maintaining.
Yeah, 100%.
I think a lot of people have a very negative mindset when it comes to plateaus, especially short-term plateaus. I'm not talking about long-term. If you're just hovering at the same place for months on end, you need to make a change, especially if you want to see other changes in your body. Again, our example, weight loss. If you get stuck at that 20 pounds down and you want to get to that 40 pounds down, there needs to be an adjustment, whether it's from your training program, your nutrition approach, or from your own personal accountability side of things. A lot of times it's ourselves that are our worst enemies. But we need to get okay with being able to maintain, right?
Absolutely. I think for me anyway, strategy comes into this, and part of maintaining, or part of kind of continuing on is first of all, I'm going to always bring up the mental aspect of this, because I think this is super important, is that you have to be okay with yourself. And I think in the fitness industry, we understand too, there's a lot of really good looking dudes and women out there
that
have
a lot of Instagram models,
which have massive food addictions or mental issues when it comes to that. They're always trying to achieve these other goals, and I think
eating disorders,
good,
for lack of a better word.
So I think it's important that at every step of the way that we are comfortable in our own shoes, and we're able to look in the mirror and say, this is where I'm at right now. these are the goals. This is where I want to stay. I'm okay looking this way. I know we just went through COVID. I'm sure everybody and their dog, including myself, going to put that extra 10 pounds on. I'm okay with that. I'm okay going through that because I know this is a long-term process for me. Yeah. I'm going to continue being healthy and fit for the rest of my life, so I can go through the dips and valleys. So.
Absolutely, there's peaks and valleys, and that's why I say, like, if we can get our head around having planned maintenance cycles in with our actual training routine, right? Everyone's so focused on, again, how many pounds did I lose this month? How many pounds did I lose this month? How many pounds? It's like, okay, eventually you're going to get busy in life.
Yes.
Let's take December, for example. The worst month of the year for pretty much everybody when it comes to their waistlines. You know, most people on average will end up putting on, like, you know, anywhere between 3 to 8 pounds, which is a big cycle there, and I'm not sure, like, how accurate those numbers are, but again, it'd be amazing to see the studies because it's true. A lot of people have weight gain during December because there's so many different events happening. Family time, people reduce their physical activity, they increase calorie consumption, whether it's that big juicy turkey meal, whether it's a staff party where we're overindulging in a couple of drinks, you know, whatever it might be. Those are situations that we really want to be mindful of. So obviously those are going to happen, and it's hard to avoid a lot of these situations, especially if there's work parties for yourself, your significant other, if there's Christmas parties for the kids, whatever the events are, or you know, whatever's going on in December. Can't just say Christmas because there's multiple different religions celebrating during that time.
For sure.
But those are kind of the areas that we really want to look out for, and we need to make sure that our clients, when we're doing it, or anybody listening here, is okay with just kind of maintaining or gaining 1 or 2 pounds during that month. I like to call it a survival month.
Sure, the balance,
right?
You know, that sounds like my August. Well, maybe December too, but I think it's important that we do that. It's important that we, you know, bump the calories a little bit and be okay with having some of those things. I know we went from the very beginning to kind of that social aspect of it, and be okay going out once in a blue moon and doing those things and having that. But understanding what that time frame looks for you.
Yeah,
right?
Again, we can color in everything with shades of gray. Like, obviously, when we're talking very kind of black and white. But as you can tell, everything we say, we kind of have a counterpoint to.
For sure.
Because we are shades of gray around here, right? Which is awesome. But again, it can kind of lead to confusion.
Yeah.
But again, there's nothing wrong with going out for wings every once in a while. There's nothing wrong with having a slice of pizza every once in a while. As long as you're being mindful and at least you're being more consistent with the healthy eating side of things when it comes to support systems. It's those people that are always hounding you every single week to go for wings and beer on a Wednesday. It's Wednesday right now, right? You're probably going to get a couple of those messages. You know, Friday night, they want to go for wine and charcuterie or whatever it might be, movies. You name it, it's there, right? So there's always going to be those are the types of support people we're talking about. Not just one person asks you for a slice of pizza and then you're out of your life for the rest of your life, right?
Sure.
So it's not shades of gray. It's definitely, or there are shades of gray. It's not black and white. But yeah, with the planned maintenance, I think it's also important to make sure that we're doing these maintenance phases to also establish the lifestyle that we're building too, right? Because there's a lot to changing our lifestyles. It can be very, very overwhelming. So we have to kind of take a smaller step approach to a lot of these things, where maybe we have to just include physical activity first. Once we've done like 6 weeks of physical activity, awesome. Now that that's part of a routine, now that that's part of a habit, let's start to implement a couple of the eating portions. Let's have, you know, breakfast in the morning if we're not eating breakfast. Or let's make sure our lunch is a good packed lunch instead of going out for lunch, right? Making those smaller steps. So once we kind of reach that point where it's like, okay, I'm not sure what other changes I can make, it's a good time to sit down, especially if you're working with a trainer, and just say, hey, listen, let's maintain this for the next little while. Let's spend one phase, let's do 1 month of just maintenance, right? You can be a little bit more loose on the nutrition side of things because we're just maintaining. We're not looking at dropping, but it just teaches people, okay, this is a lifestyle. And if anything, people are going to get more motivated after that maintenance month to see better results longer term anyways.
I was going to say, too, and I think there's a bit of a reset that happens, too, 100%. Right? We talked that adaptability, right? Yep. At some point, we kind of bump those calories up a little bit. We have that maintenance phase. We're just going to kind of reset again. So when we do have maybe another goal or weight loss goal to hit, we're gonna have that ability to kind of reach those goals a little quicker.
Yeah, it's the same idea as a deload week, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to have those weeks where you just take it easy. Don't overstimulate the body, and then you can come back with almost 10 times more energy the next week, right? That week almost builds up as like, well, I'm just kind of going through the motions, but then it's like, yeah, I really want to get this. I really want to get this done. So whether that's a week, whether that's a month, whatever it might be, having that rest period to readapt, kind of set the body, like you mentioned, and just go full force is a wonderful thing, right? And I think it's something that a lot of us don't think about. And we really should. Again, recovering the body, recovering the system, recovering our mental side of things are so important when it comes to health and wellness. And we don't always put a priority on it. It's always, what more can I do? Kind of mentioned that before. Like, you're always looking for more and more to do to see the changes that you want. But we never quite look at how am I resting? How am I recovering? Right? So having these types of months can really kind of reset, reevaluate, and make sure that the goals that we still want to reach are still the goals that we have in mind, right?
Sure.
Especially as we get to the lower body fat percentages, where we have to start looking at more like fitness goals rather than body fat or composition goals, right? Those are all great ways to do it. And maintenance, I think, is one of the easiest ways to go about it on the coaching side of things.
Yeah, and I think it's important we write things down, calendar these things as well, and understand that, give yourself those block of time, or have that conversation with the trainer or the coach that you're working with, and go through that with them. I think that's important. Yeah. And
yeah, even for coaches, right? It's good to sit down with somebody and be like, hey, listen, I've noticed that motivation levels are getting a little low. You're not as into everything right now. You've mentioned a couple struggles with nutrition. Let's reevaluate. Let's sit down. Let's go through this. We're going to do this, this, and this for the next 2-3 weeks. If we can just stay at the exact same weight, or we can, minimize weight gain to 2 to 3 pounds, I think we're going to do just fine.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so before we wrap up here, I guess any other points that you think we should bring up? I like all three of these because obviously they all tie in together very, very well. But any other struggles that you can think of, Mike, that people have, a couple months in that can really help remotivate?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me is, again, enjoying the process and continually setting smaller goals within the bigger goals so that we have something to kind of work towards. And don't get down on yourself. I think that's huge. I think a lot of people at every step of the way kind of get down on themselves at certain points. I can look in the mirror at myself and be like, geez, I could look a little bit this, but I'm okay with who I am. I'm okay with what I'm doing. I understand that the process is long. I understand that I can get there. And I always, we want things so quickly. I think we live in this society where everything is, we want it now.
Well, even just over-sexualization almost of fitness too, right? You can see it on Instagram all the time, fitness models and people with their shirts off, everything. I'm guilty of it as well, right? And then we end up comparing ourselves to those people as well, right?
For sure.
So,
it can be detrimental. I mean, but again, it's knowing yourself, knowing who you are as an individual. I think there's nothing wrong with doing those things. I think it's important that we show people what's achievable as well. But I think it's also important that we have the communication. It goes back to our social network and be okay with who we are and the group that we're around and live our best lives, not just in the gym but outside of the gym as well.
Yeah. It needs to be a lifestyle, period, above and beyond everything else. So yeah, guys, there you have it. Again, just kind of quickly, these are some tips to help people out with seeing results. Some struggles that might come up a couple months into your fitness journey rather than right at the beginning. So again, guys, keeping your eye on your support system. Make sure that everybody's on board long term with you. Super important. Friends, family, coworkers. Making sure that we keep in mind that we are going to have we're going to see less results and less changes the longer that we are into the fitness side of things. So that law of diminishing returns, and then just being okay with having a maintenance planned out. Again, the law of diminishing returns and the maintenance side of things kind of fit in really nicely, because if we do the maintenance side of things, it does allow us to have that adaptation phase again for a brief couple periods. So again, if you're kind of hitting that plateau, folks, definitely try out a maintenance phase. It can really help out. Don't stress out too much, because stress is going to be the reason why we see bigger bigger and, or I guess less and less results is what I'm looking to say. Not on the A game today with the wording. The words are hard today, but I think people will get what we're trying to say.
Yeah, and reach out and ask questions. You know, whether you have a coach or you don't, I think we reach out and ask questions. Anybody in the fitness business or industry is, for the most part, I should say, not everybody, is eager to help.
Yeah.
Really, for the most part. And don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. And there's no right or wrong answer to a lot of these things, but I think you can really help by educating yourself by asking questions. I just said that 6 different times, but all right.
Like I said, words are tough. We're half an hour into this. Our brains are fried already. So, Mike, before we wrap up, where can people find you?
You can get me at FitFunFather on Instagram or Facebook. Of course, if you walk in the doors of 360 Fitness, you'll see my smiling, goofy face on the wall. And yeah, that's about where you can get me.
And then you have your own podcast too?
I do, the Fit Fun Father podcast. It's under a little bit of a revamp, but I got 75 episodes currently on Spotify, iTunes, all major podcasts where podcasts can be found. So you can go out there and I got every topic under the sun. So.
We're going to have to do like a combo deal. They buy one, get one.
Yeah.
Or I guess they just download one, they'll get the other one automatically for free. Hey?
No doubt, right? Yeah.
Especially if they want to listen to more of your velvety tones and
sure.
sprinkle some more fitness knowledge on everybody. I know that you did a really good job there. But yeah, with that being said, thank you so much. I'll be right back to wrap everything up. There you have it, folks. A couple different ideas on how to work around some struggles that maybe we don't really think about as much as we're going through our fitness journey. I want to thank Mike once again for joining us. Mike's newer with 360 Fitness, but he's such an important part of our team. So happy to have him. We have some other great guests lined up. A lot of our new trainers are going to hop on here. We're going to be doing a couple trainer spotlight series coming up. And trying something a little bit different with a little bit of a fitness chat. Just no particular topic. We're just going to kind of go off the cuff, start talking fitness, and see where everything ends up. So it could be a disaster. It could be a success. We'll see. But again, guys, if you really enjoyed what you heard here today, make sure you go and check out all of our other podcasts. You can find them on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Podbean, whatever major podcast providers you're listening to. Again, we want to thank you so much. So if you hit the subscribe button, greatly appreciate it. Make sure that you leave a rating, a review, and share it with a friend because, again, sharing is caring. Said it earlier, but here we are again. Also, make sure that you check out everything 360 Fitness. So, again, www.360fitness.ca. You can find us on Facebook, 360 Fitness Personal Training, both Red Deer and Sherwood Park. On Instagram, at 360 Fitness PT and at 360fitness.shpk. You can find us on Twitter at 360fitnessrd and at 360fitnesssp. You can find your host on all the major websites as well. So you can find me on Twitter at rs_hill. You can find me on Instagram, and that one is rshill_fitness. So a little bit different there. And rshill.fitness on Facebook. And yes, if you're wondering, I did have to look up my own handles so I didn't screw them up again. So with that being said, guys, we are going to wrap up this edition of the Real Results Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we will be back soon with more free information to help you get real results